The rain was falling when she died. Takeshi remembered every detail, the way her hand felt cold in his, the steady beep of the heart monitor becoming one long, terrible sound, the way her smile never left her face, even at the end. "Take care of yourself, Takeshi," she'd whispered. "Promise me you'll be happy." He couldn't promise that. How could he be happy without Yuki? Cancer had taken her at 35, just when they were talking about starting a family. They'd been married for 10 years, together for 15. She was his entire world. But now he was 23 again, standing in the same coffee shop where they'd first met 12 years ago. His wedding ring was gone, his apartment was the small one-bedroom he'd lived in back then, and Yuki was alive. She walked through the door at exactly 2:47 p.m., just like she had the first time. Same bright yellow umbrella, same gentle smile as she shook off the rain. Her long black hair was tied in a simple ponytail, and she wore that soft blue sweater he'd loved so much. Takeshi's heart stopped. She was so young, so healthy, so full of life. This time, he wouldn't let her die. "Excuse me," she said, approaching the counter where he stood. "I think you're in my spot." In his first life, he'd been annoyed. He was having a bad day, stressed about work, and some girl was bothering him about a coffee shop spot that didn't even have assigned seating. This time he smiled. "I'm sorry, please take it. Can I buy your coffee?" She blinked in surprise. "Oh, that's very kind, but you don't have to." "I insist. What would you like?" A caramel macchiato with extra foam." "Perfect choice," he said, though he already knew. He'd bought her thousands of caramel macchiatos over the years. They sat together that day, talking for 3 hours. She told him about her job at the bookstore, her love for mystery novels, her cat named Mochi. He listened to every word like it was the first time, even though he'd heard these stories countless times before. "You're a good listener," she said, as they prepared to leave. "You're interesting to listen to," he replied honestly. She blushed. "Would you maybe want to do this again sometime?" In his first life, he'd said yes casually, not knowing she would become everything to him. This time, he said yes like his life depended on it. Because it did. Over the next few months, Takeshi courted Yuki with a dedication that surprised even him. He knew all her favorite things, all her fears, all her dreams. But he was careful not to seem too familiar, too knowing. "How did you know I love sunflowers?" she asked when he brought her a bouquet for their third date. "Lucky guess," he said, not mentioning that he'd filled their entire wedding venue with sunflowers. "And you somehow picked my favorite restaurant too. I have good instincts." She laughed, that same musical sound that had been the soundtrack to his happiest years. "It's like you can read my mind." If only she knew. As summer turned to fall, Takeshi found himself falling in love all over again. Every smile, every laugh, every quiet moment felt both familiar and brand new. Yuki was exactly the same, but seeing her through the lens of knowing how precious she was made everything more intense. "You're different from other guys I've dated," she said one evening as they walked through the park. "How so?" "You pay attention, real attention, like you're trying to memorize everything about me." He was. Every expression, every gesture, every word. He'd lost these once. He wouldn't lose them again. "Maybe because you're worth memorizing," he said. She stopped walking and looked at him with those warm brown eyes he'd loved for a lifetime. "Takeshi, I know it's early," he said quickly, "but I think I'm falling in love with you." In their first timeline, it had taken him 8 months to say those words. This time, it took 3. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. Their first kiss tasted like the caramel macchiato she'd been drinking and felt like coming home. Winter brought their first challenge. Yuki caught a bad flu that lasted for weeks. In their original timeline, Takeshi had been supportive, but not overly worried. This time he was terrified. "It's just the flu," she said weakly from her bed as he fussed over her with soup and medicine. "I know. I worry about you." "Why?" "I'm healthy as a horse, usually." But he knew what was coming. In 8 years, she would start feeling tired all the time. In 9 years, they would discover the first tumor. In 11 years, the treatments would begin. In 12 years, he pushed the thoughts away and focused on taking care of her now. "You don't have to stay," she said. "You'll get sick too." "I don't care," he said, and meant it. "I'm not leaving you." She smiled through her fever. "What did I do to deserve you?" "Existed," he said simply. She recovered, and spring brought their first anniversary. Takeshi had planned something elaborate, but Yuki surprised him. "Let's just stay in tonight," she said. "Order takeout, watch old movies. I just want to be with you." So they did. They curled up on her couch, sharing lo mein and laughing at a terrible romantic comedy. Halfway through the second movie, she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. Takeshi stayed perfectly still, watching her peaceful face in the TV's glow. In their first life, he'd carried her to bed and gone home. This time, he stayed all night, holding her, protecting her even from nightmares. "Good morning," she whispered when she woke to find herself still in his arms. "Good morning, beautiful. My hair's a mess, and I probably have morning breath." "You're perfect," he said, and kissed her forehead. 2 years passed like a beautiful dream. They moved in together, adopted a second cat, Daifuku, who loved Takeshi more than Yuki, though she pretended to be offended, and built a life full of small, precious moments. Takeshi knew exactly when to comfort her after a bad day, exactly what to say when she was anxious, exactly how to make her laugh when she was sad. Some people might have called it unnaturally perfect, but to him, it felt like finally getting things right. "Sometimes I feel like you know me better than I know myself," Yuki said one evening as they cooked dinner together. "Maybe I do," he said, stirring the pasta sauce she'd taught him to make in their first life. "Is that scary?" "No," she said thoughtfully. "It's wonderful. It's like you see all of me, even the parts I try to hide, and you love me anyway." "Especially those parts," he said honestly. On their third anniversary, he proposed. Not with the elaborate plan he'd used the first time, but simply quietly during their morning coffee routine. "Yuki," he said, getting down on one knee right there in their kitchen. "Takeshi, what are you—" "Marry me, not because it's the next logical step, not because we've been together long enough. Marry me because I can't imagine a single day of the rest of my life without you in it, because you make everything better just by existing, because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person." She was crying before he finished. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." The ring was the same one from their first engagement. He'd kept it all these years. But this time, when he slipped it onto her finger, she gasped. "It's perfect. It's exactly what I would have chosen." "I know," he said, and kissed her. Their wedding was small, intimate, held in the same sunflower field where they'd had their first life ceremony. As Yuki walked down the aisle in her grandmother's dress, Takeshi had to fight back tears. "You may kiss the bride," the officiant said. When their lips met, Takeshi felt like he was sealing a promise not just for this life, but for all the lives to come. But the real test was still ahead. Year 5 of their marriage, year 8 of knowing each other, was when the symptoms had first appeared before. Takeshi watched Yuki like a hawk, noting every yawn, every moment she seemed tired. "Honey, you're hovering," she said one evening, catching him staring at her as she read. "Sorry. I just love looking at you. That's sweet, but you've been extra attentive lately. Are you okay?" He wanted to tell her everything. About the cancer, about losing her, about getting this miraculous second chance. But he'd learned from experience that some knowledge was too heavy to share. "I'm fine, just grateful, I guess, for this life we have." She set down her book and moved closer to him on the couch. "Me too. Every single day." When the tiredness started, Takeshi was ready. He'd already researched the best oncologists, the latest treatments, the experimental therapies that hadn't existed in their first timeline. "I think you should see a doctor," he said gently, after she'd fallen asleep during 3 movies in a row. "I'm just tired. Work's been stressful. Humor me, please." The tests came back positive. Stage 2, but they'd caught it early this time. 11 months earlier than in their first life. "I'm scared," Yuki whispered in the hospital waiting room. "I know, but we caught it early. The survival rate is excellent, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way. Promise?" "I promise. We're going to beat this." And they did. The chemotherapy was brutal, but Takeshi knew exactly how to help her through each stage. He knew when to push her to eat, when to let her rest, when to distract her with jokes, and when to simply hold her while she cried. "How do you always know exactly what I need?" she asked one day during treatment, her head bald but her eyes bright. "Because I love you," he said. "Love pays attention." The day they got the all clear, Yuki cried for 20 minutes straight. 5 years cancer-free and we can start planning for that family we talked about, the doctor said. That night, they celebrated quietly at home with takeout and sparkling cider. "I want to do something," Yuki said suddenly. "What?" "I want to renew our vows. I know it's silly, but going through it made me realize how precious everything is. How precious you are. I want to promise to love you all over again." Takeshi's heart overflowed. In their first life, she'd never had the chance to be a cancer survivor. She'd never had the chance to see how strong she was, how much they could overcome together. "It's not silly at all," he said. "Let's do it." Their vow renewal was everything their wedding hadn't been. A huge celebration with all their friends and family, a party that lasted until dawn. Yuki wore a white dress that showed off her newly grown hair, pixie short and perfect. 10 years ago, I married you because I loved you," she said in her new vows. "Today I marry you because I choose you. Every day, in every timeline, in every possible universe, I choose you." Takeshi's own vows were simple. "I promise to love you for as long as we both shall live. And if there's anything after that, I promise to find you there too." 5 years later, what would have been the 12th anniversary of their original meeting, they were sitting in the same coffee shop where it all began. Yuki was 35, healthy and glowing, chasing their 3-year-old daughter around while their infant son slept in Takeshi's arms. "Mama, why are you and Daddy being mushy again?" little Hana asked, wrinkling her nose as her parents shared a kiss. "Because we're still in our honeymoon phase," Yuki said, winking at Takeshi. "How long does that last?" Hana asked. "Forever," Takeshi said, looking at his wife, alive, healthy, surrounded by the family they'd never had the chance to create before. "It lasts forever." That night, after the children were asleep, Yuki curled up against his chest in their bed. "Do you ever think about alternate realities?" she asked sleepily. "What do you mean?" "Like, what if we'd never met? What if I'd gotten sick and died? What if we'd made different choices? Do you think there are other versions of us out there, living different lives?" Takeshi held her closer. "Maybe. But I like to think that in every possible world, every possible timeline, we find each other. Because some things are just meant to be." "I love that idea," she murmured against his chest. "Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if we get another life after this one, you'll find me again." "I promise," he whispered into her hair. "I'll always find you." But he didn't need another life. This one was perfect, just as it was. 12 years after getting his second chance, Takeshi finally understood that love wasn't about preventing loss. It was about cherishing what you have while you have it, fighting for it when it's threatened, and never taking a single moment for granted. And as he fell asleep holding the woman he'd loved across 2 lifetimes, he knew that some miracles were worth waiting for, even if you had to die first to appreciate them. The rain outside their window sounded different now, not like an ending but like the beginning of something beautiful. Their forever had finally begun.